of people wanting to ameliorate all of their difficult and uncomfortable emotions, to transmute them into something closer to equanimity, right? Balance, peace, sanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this a lot. And I think that I'm quite averse to conflict by nature. That's the way that I tend to operate. I often just bow out, opt for peace. And then two things changed. First off, I realized that I'm leaving an awful lot of motivation on the table
Okay.
by not utilizing a very specific, very potent kind of fuel, because I was aware that over a long enough time span, I think it can be toxic. I think that if you're fueled by hate and distaste and fear and scarcity for long enough, it becomes something that damages you more than it helps you win. But it's unbelievably potent, especially in times of war. The second thing that happened was I became a little bit more of a target for people's ire and distaste. And that meant that the underdog loving support that everybody has for the person that's on the come up dissolved a little bit and started to evaporate, because people don't mind you doing well. They just don't want you to do better than them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're on the way up, everyone roots for you because you remind them of their dreams. And when you're at the top, everyone tries to tear you down because you remind them of what they gave up on. So those two things changed. And I had a great conversation with Alex Hormozy that really drove this home to me. He said, use what you have. And a lot of people have more pain than they do pleasure. Don't use it for too long. 10, 15, 20 years, like that's how you end up having a breakdown or some sort of dependency or addiction or vice. But it's potent, so use it. And I think that the insight of enemies can bring out a side of you that you are not aware, you weren't aware even existed, is kind of like alchemy, right? It's turning something that is both toxic and useless into something which is golden and your choice.
Yes. And by the way, your eyes. Okay, I'm looking at your eyes right now. Your eyes don't tell me a guy that is just doing this to just have fun. Okay. Your eyes have a lot of fire in them. Okay. A lot of fire in them. Your eyes tell a story of maybe you have a crazy side inside of you. Okay. A side that maybe you keep inside. Okay. Where very few people maybe see, but that's why you're doing as well as you're doing. I walk into this place. I do a lot of podcasts. I walk into this place. I walk in, I'm like, Sam, where are we? He says, honestly, I don't know, but I think we're at the right place. We walk in and I see why you do what you do and the amount of time and resources and your team putting into hand selecting a different set. We don't do that. So what does that tell me? You're maniacal, you're detail oriented, you're moving up right now on the podcast across the board, competing with everybody. You have a vision. Maybe some of it we know. Probably all of it we don't know. Okay, some of it's kept, even the smiles telling the story right now. You're a perfect example of this, right? Uh, um, if you and I sit down, we get the benefit. Like, I don't know if you read Elon Musk's recent book or not. Walter Isaacson.
Not yet. No, I've heard from every single person that's even glanced at the blurb that you need to read it.
You need to read it. You're gonna flip out. You're gonna love it. You'll appreciate it for a guy that's wired like you. We get to judge Elon from the outside. Okay, why would somebody? You sell a company for $180 million. You take $100 million, you put it in a solar, whatever. You take 70 in Tesla, you put 10 in, another company, vice versa, whatever the structure. No, you put 100 million in SpaceX, 70 million in Tesla, and 10 million you put it in solar. Then you're a billionaire. Then you want to do what? You want to go to the next thing? Then Boring Company. Then you got Twitter. What for? And then you read a story in the book about his father, on how his father was. Are you kidding me? Oh, I mean, some of the biggest people that we read about, we watch movies about, it's one of their two parents that did something to them. I'm with Tom Brady a month ago. We have him at the event. And the formula I see with a lot of people that do something big is three things. One, at one point in their lives, they experience unconditional love because you need it. It's fuel. You have to have it, even if it's just from one person, okay? Unconditional love means what? You screwed up. You went to jail. You got a DUI. You got kicked out of school. You got expelled. Everybody ousted you and said you're a nobody. You're not going to amount to anything. You're a loser. You're this. But that mother there always said, honey, I love you. You can do anything to lose this one person's love. One person. That's all you need. You don't need 50 of them. Just one. Unconditional love. Number two, is you need somebody who brought unbelievable pain in your life that you loved. This is a person you and I loved, that they destroyed our heart. We couldn't do anything to gain love from this person. Nothing. Perform, tell them we love them, go above and beyond, give them money, buy them gifts, give them incredible experiences, become buff, have a six-pack, drive a Ferrari, have a Lambo, own a penthouse, have a yacht, be best friends with the best athletes, with billionaires. No matter what you do, this person brought you so much pain, you can never win this person over. It is a battle your entire life, try to win this person over. You're never going to do it. It's not going to happen, but you need that person as well. And you know what the last one is? Obviously, choosing your enemies wisely. You take a person that has those three combination. By the way, very rarely will they ever tell you the entire reason. Very rarely will they fully disclose everything. Some of them will take it to their grave with them. We will never know about it. But for someone to have the kind of a fire that goes years beyond 99% of people would have stopped, what's the reason for it? What else do you need? How many more accolades? How many more tens of millions of dollars? How many more cars? How many more houses? How many more top charts on podcasts? Number one, this. What's the reason for it? You know, it's again, we're not talking about everybody. Most people will listen to this whole concept of choose your enemies wisely and they'll say, that's hate. What a miserable life. What a this, what a that. No, most people chose the wrong enemies. The enemies they've chosen is about being entitled, is about being victims, about feeling sorry for themselves, and it's destroyed them. It's stolen years away from their lives. So yeah, the way you're describing what you're saying, you know, you'll typically see a pattern with those three things of people who do something big. They experience those three. And unfortunately, the reason why I like Musk's book is when you read it, you see the pattern with all three. Unconditional love, mom and Kimball, his brother. Unconditional pain, father. Choosing his enemies wisely, industry, traditional, you know, guys who are like, this is the way we do with NASA, you know, governmental agencies, censorship, you know, establishment. He's just recruiting new enemies for himself every day. It's like bored. He needs more enemies and more enemies. But guess who's talking about him around the world? Everybody is. And 100 years from now, our kids, our grandkids will look back and say, man, who was this Elon Musk guy? Unfortunately, we're not going to be around to talk about who it was, how we viewed him, but they're going to be watching plenty of documentaries and movies about a guy like that because he chose his enemies wisely.
Feels to me, I've got in my mind the image of Pac-Man, you know, when he is able to eat the ghosts,
Yeah.
and the ghosts, since were previously a threat to him, now become fuel. And that to me is, I learned the three most common traits of elite performers, and it was a crippling sense of insufficiency, a superiority complex, and maniacal focus.
Yep.
And I think that those three things map onto what you were just talking about there.
Have you read this book?
I've read the first half.
Just so you know, that part from your podcast is in the book. You're in the book. Did you know this or no?
No.
Your podcast is in the book. Those
it
three
really?
things you just talked about.
Okay.
It's in the book.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So those three things, right? I'm scared that I'm not enough. I believe that I can do more.
Yep.
I have the impulse control to be able to keep me focused and keep me moving forward. What would you say to the people that say, what you're describing sounds an awful lot like a competitor?
Okay. Yeah.
What's the difference between a competitor and an enemy?
Yeah, it's not a competitor because to me, so in the last 20 some years, I have worked my tail off to figure out a way of writing a business plan that I can teach others how to write a business plan. So when you go buy books on business plans, it's all boring, technical. It's for a Fortune 500 company or somebody that wants to go raise capital, and it's so complex and dense. You will not think about a business planning book that you're going to walk away saying, here's how I can write a business plan that's simple, that I can look at it over and over and over again. Great, I'm good to go, right? There isn't something like that out there. This is supposed to be a business planning book that turned into an enemy's book. So when I'm talking to the CEO, the publisher of a portfolio, okay, Adrian, and we're going back and forth. We had 5-hour Zooms, 5 1-hour Zooms just on the title. And in many cases, we would sit there for 15 minutes. No one's talking. We're
Who
all
wanted
thinking,
what?
Who won what?
Who wanted what?